There's some breaking news on our top story now. A lawyer representing the young person at the centre of the BBC presenter allegations has disputed that young person's mother's account of events. In a letter to the BBC, the lawyer makes claims that throw doubt on the story that has dominated front pages through the weekend. It says that the young person sent a denial to The Sun on Friday evening via WhatsApp, saying the statement that their mother made to the newspaper was totally wrong and there was no truth to it. Joining me now live from outside BBC headquarters at the Broadcasting House in London, TalkTV correspondent Oliver Whitfield-Miocic. Ollie, this is a development that wasn't expected.
Yes, it really is an unexpected development. Now, I think before we get into what has now being alleged by this young person's lawyer, we need to remind ourselves about how this story came about. So on Friday evening, The Sun published its front page preview of the newspaper that it was going to be submitting the next day. That front page made the allegation that a BBC presenter who remains unnamed had paid in the region of £35,000 for sexually explicit photos. The story seems to have come from this young person's mother, who then said that her child had used the money to fund a crack cocaine habit. Now, the subsequent stories that have come out to The Sun all seem to have come from this young person's mother. Now we are hearing that the young person at the centre of this, along with the BBC presenter, but the young person, via his lawyer, wrote to the Sun newspaper. He sent a denial on that very Friday evening when the story was going to be published. The letter, now given to the BBC, says, "For the avoidance of doubt, nothing inappropriate or unlawful has taken place between our client and the BBC personality," and it then goes on to say the allegations reported in the Sun newspaper are rubbish. So we now seem to have two completely conflicting sides of the story. One from the young boys, or from the young adult's mother, I should say, and then one from the young adult himself via his lawyer. Meanwhile, the media continues not to report who this BBC presenter is. That is because of privacy laws. Both this young person and the BBC presenter have got a reasonable expectation of privacy. That comes to what happens behind closed doors, but it also comes to any investigation that should happen either at the BBC or the police until or if the police were going to lay a charge. Now, in relation to this story, the BBC yesterday said it was going to go towards the police because of the new information that had come to light. Today, there has been a remote conversation between BBC executives and the Metropolitan Police. The police say there is no investigation as things stand, and they are working to see whether they need to do some more work before they can launch any sort of new inquiries. This is a story, though, that has rocked the BBC's reputation because in the original story, which came out through this young person's mother, it said that the BBC had been made aware of the allegations back in May. The BBC then seemingly allowed this person to continue presenting on air for around 60 days. On the BBC side, though, they say that they only got this latest information, which made them come to this new action on Thursday evening. So now it's a case of he says, she says, all tied up with the threat of defamation and privacy laws being broken. Already some of those laws have been broken online. The warning to people at home, if they're using social media, be very careful about what you put online because you too could be sued if you're putting out lies out onto the World Wide Web.
Ollie, thank you very much indeed. Well, this story is breaking even as we're broadcasting here on the television because we've just received a statement from the Sun newspaper in response to that one. And this is what it says. "We have reported a story about two very concerned parents who made a complaint to the BBC about the behaviour of a presenter and the welfare of their child. Their complaint was not acted upon by the BBC. We have seen evidence that supports their concerns. It is now for the BBC to properly investigate."